Good evening, everyone. I'm Bill Russell, and I'm honored to serve as the board chair of Legal Services NYC. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of Legal Services NYC, its board, and its lawyers and staff to the 2020 Jazz for Justice Gala. This is the 15th year that we've hosted Jazz for Justice, but we're making history this evening by conducting it as a virtual event. We wish we could gather together in person tonight to celebrate the organization and its work, but unfortunately, current circumstances regarding the pandemic prevent us from doing so. Nevertheless, we're all together in spirit, and we'll still be entertained by some terrific jazz performances. Before I turn the virtual podium over to our talented executive director, Ron Rasmussen, there are a number of people that I'd like to thank. First of all, I'd like to thank our wonderful honorees, David Levine, the General Counsel of Bloomberg L.P, and James Sandman, the former president of the Legal Services Corporation, for all that they've done to further the cause of access to justice, and for all the support that they provided to Legal Services NYC. I also want to thank, and to note with great sadness, the passing of our good friend Steve Edwards of Quinn Emanuel. Steve was a longtime supporter of Legal Services NYC and played a large role in enlisting the wonderful jazz performers whose entertainment has been one of the hallmarks of this event over the years. I'd like to thank my predecessor's board chair, Susan Coleman of Jenner & Block. Susan, you've done an absolutely terrific job running the board and have left some pretty big shoes to fill. I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed working with you these past few years, and I'm happy that you're remaining on the board to keep all of us out of trouble. I'd like to thank the lawyers and staff of Legal Services NYC. We're here this evening in large part to celebrate you and the tremendous work that all of you perform every day, helping more than 100,000 New Yorkers every year fight for the rights to obtain and enjoy the basic necessities of life. Finally, I'd like to thank all of you who joined us here tonight to support the efforts of Legal Services NYC and the most important fight in which any of us can engage, the fight for justice. And now, I'd like to invite you to enjoy a performance by the very talented Annette Cohen and Marcelo Gonçalves.
Hi, my name is Annette Cohen, and I would like to welcome you all to the 2020 Jazz for Justice benefit. We're so happy to be here today to celebrate David Levine and James Sandman, the amazing staff of Legal Services New York City, who have been working so hard to meet the needs of their clients during these unprecedented and demanding times. I would like to present to you a song and let us all go through music to connect. A song I wrote when I was in the south of Brazil. It's called Valse of the South. I was visiting the Iguaçu Falls in a wonderful, natural place. I'm going to be performing it with the amazing Marcelo Gonçalves on the 7-string guitar. I hope you enjoy, and I hope we can all meet for real. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Enjoy tonight. Thank you.
Wow, that was so cool. Thank you, Annette and Marcelo, for that inspiring and energizing welcome. Annette's a Grammy-nominated musician who was introduced to us by Steve Edwards, who was a musician himself, and who introduced us to all of the musicians we'll hear from tonight. We'll be honoring Steve more fully at our next Jazz for Justice event in May, and I hope you'll all join us then. Tonight, you'll hear much more about Jim and David, but I want to start by giving them my personal thanks. Jim, for providing unparalleled leadership for the National Legal Services Corporation during the past 4 years of unrelenting attacks on the work that we do. And David, for your leadership in expanding the commitment of your staff and the corporate sector more broadly to address the many challenges faced by low-income New Yorkers. My deep thanks to you both. The COVID pandemic has hit New York City particularly hard. More than 300,000 cases, 20,000 deaths, and an unemployment rate that skyrocketed to 20% in June and July. Before the pandemic, nearly 1.7 million New Yorkers had incomes under the federal poverty level, $25,000 for a family of 4. That reality is now much worse for those families and for so many more who've been impoverished by recent unemployment. Since mid-March, when we closed the doors to our 16 offices throughout the city, our staff have worked tirelessly from their homes to provide the services that New Yorkers have always needed, as well as the services that are newly needed because of this pandemic. Our hotline staff have been fielding more than 700 calls a week from New Yorkers who are desperate for help. Each month, our public benefits advocates have opened nearly 1,000 new cases, more than double the number of cases opened before the pandemic. And our social workers and development staff have raised nearly $250,000 to provide small grants to families who need $200 or $500 to buy food or diapers or books for their kids. Our staff are educating thousands of potential clients about unemployment benefits and how to apply for them. We're helping kids with special needs get the educational services they need so they don't fall further behind. Our immigration advocates are making sure our clients don't get deported or lose their rights to legal status. Our housing and foreclosure advocates are fighting illegal evictions and predatory lending scams. And our family law advocates are helping survivors of domestic violence who can't find privacy from their batterers to make the calls needed to find safety. Think about that for a minute. Through it all, our staff have shown incredible courage under fire. Without pause, they've stepped up to meet increased demands from clients and to create an infrastructure that's allowed us to keep serving those clients. They've simultaneously dealt with illness and death in their own families, the incredible challenges of remote learning for their kids, and the ongoing need to help their clients access technology sufficient to defend their cases. Let's give them all some Zoom applause right now. I guess it's human nature. As we experience together the seemingly endless and sometimes deadly fog that we're in, we also hope for good health for our families and friends, for a vaccine that works, for the opportunity to hug our loved ones without quarantine. We hope, as we who care about justice always do, that we can emerge from this nightmare somehow emboldened, stronger, and with more energy to take on the challenges that persist. Luisa y Gloria, the poet laureate of Virginia, recently wrote a poem of hope that acknowledges the moment we were in this summer and challenges us all to make a better world. Here's an excerpt from her poem with statues falling. It was the summer we gave thanks for the thousand bodies marching in the hearts of grieving, inflamed cities. How they brought brave songs and chants, paint and chalk, words and light, to project the hopes which we must bind together so we become our own living, breathing monuments. Thanks to all of you for being here tonight, for supporting our work, and for helping us bind our hopes together into living, breathing forces for justice. and change. And now I'd like to introduce Katie Marquardt, who's a partner and pro bono chair at Gibson Dunn. Katie's been instrumental in helping us to create and scale our work on behalf of LGBTQ asylum seekers, in addition to supporting many of our other pro bono initiatives. Katie?
Hi, my name is Katie Marquardt, and I'm a partner at Gibson Dunn and our firm's pro bono chair. And I'm so excited to be here with you today to share a few words about our work with LSNYC, as well as to introduce one of our incredible clients. LSNYC has always played a critically important role for low-income, marginalized communities in New York, and that role has never been more important than in 2020. Whether working to fight an unlawful eviction, providing advice to a small business owner trying to stay afloat amidst the pandemic, or helping a survivor of domestic violence obtain safety and security, their impact has continued to be tremendous, and we have been so proud to work with them. Over the course of the last 5 years, Gibson Dunn attorneys have spent over 23,000 pro bono hours on behalf of LSNYC's clients. The pro bono team at LSNYC, under the leadership of Adam Heinz, has built a truly exceptional program that I believe allows our lawyers to help LSNYC scale up the important work that they are doing, and we hope to reach even more New Yorkers in need. And this has continued throughout 2020, even as we've all had to learn new ways to work effectively. The team at LSNYC quickly pivoted to turn their entire program into a remote one, and I think it's been really successful. Our most successful collaboration has been our LGBTQ Asylum Project, which we launched in 2017. Since then, under the leadership and guidance of attorneys like Chelsea Sahai and Janice Chua, we've developed a bit of a niche practice group at Gibson Dunn in this space. We've hosted 13 LGBTQ asylum clinics, and we've taken on 62 asylum seekers as clients. 32 of these clients have already been granted asylum, and the other 30 cases are still pending, so fingers crossed. We look forward to continuing this important work in the future. It's now my great pleasure to introduce one of our clients, Joy Weffam. I met Joy for the first time several years ago at one of these clinics, and I was immediately struck by his warmth, his grace, and his strength. We were so proud to represent Joy in his asylum petition, and we were overjoyed when we learned that he had been granted asylum in this country. You'll be hearing in a few moments a little bit more about his journey, and I hope about some of his aspirations and goals for the future. I am so proud and humbled to introduce Joy Weffam.
My name is Joy Parkwesi Weffam. I grew up in Ghana in a very strict Christian household. My mother was a disciplinarian. She strongly believed that homosexuality was immoral and a sin against God. When I started to realize that I had feelings for men, there was no way I would openly admit that I am gay. My religion is against it, my culture is against it, the law in my country is against it, and I could face jail time or prosecution if I was ever caught in the act. I knew Ghana would be a living hell for me to live as a gay young man if I didn't find an escape route. I could be ostracized from both home and church or be sent to a prayer camp where there will be lots of barbaric practices all in an attempt to cure people of what they consider spiritual filth. So while I was at university, I used connections through my chorus to visit the United States during my summer holidays. And right when I got done, I fled to the United States for a fresh start, and also secretly knowing I had no intentions of going back to Ghana if the conditions there stayed the same. Fast forward a few years, while I was living in New Jersey, I got diagnosed with HIV. Shortly after, I lost my job and apartment and had to move into a homeless shelter in New York. That was the most difficult time of my life, as I could not share the news of my health with my family or even close friends. I thought I had completely failed at life. I attempted suicide 3 times during that period as I didn't see any hope for my life. I also knew going back home to Ghana was not an option, as it would be a death sentence to return as an HIV positive gay man. My caseworker, who helped me in securing emergency housing, advised me that I may be eligible for asylum to live legally and permanently here in the United States. I was very unsure about the process considering the current political climate on immigration in the country and also considering how long I have been living illegally in the United States. I had arrived here in May 2012 and by now it was summer 2018. All the same, I began to hunt for a legal services provider who could help me. Many said no because I had been here for so long and they didn't think I had a chance. But Legal Services NYC said yes. I still remember that phone call on August 28, 2018 with a gentleman from Legal Services named Shandong, who was very helpful and assured me that I had an opportunity to attend one of the pro bono LGBTQ HIV asylum clinics on September 20, 2018. I went for my screening and after a few weeks I got a call informing me that I made it into the program and that the next step was to pair me with a law firm that would give me representation. After a couple of months, I got what I call the golden call, which was to inform me that Legal Services would partner with Gibson Dunn to represent me in my asylum case. I call that the golden call because it was the call that changed my destiny and my life for the better. I remember my first meeting with my attorneys, Camilla Vega and Alexander Pearl of Giles. They were very warm and nurturing and very interested in my case. These ladies poured their blood, sweat, and tears into my case to make sure that we didn't leave any room for error. My case was particularly complicated because, as I said, I had been living in the United States illegally for 7 years, and also, even after my HIV diagnosis, which became my changed circumstance, it still took me 10 months to start the process. We met once a week over 4 months and they provided me with all insights and resources I needed, including getting me affidavits from a clinical psychologist, a professor at NYU, and a few of my friends from Ghana. They provided me dinner and refreshment at every meeting and also Metro cards whenever I needed them. My attorneys worked tirelessly every week as though I was their only client or paying so much money for their time when in fact I didn't pay a penny. I know all this was made possible because of the vision and goals of Legal Services NYC and its commitment to fighting poverty and seeking racial, social, and economic justice for low-income New Yorkers. I'm a proud beneficiary of this commitment. Legal Services partnered with Gibson Dunn to fight for me relentlessly until my affirmative petition was granted. I remember going back with my attorneys very nervously for my response as we were unsure of the outcome, and the unexplainable joy that radiated from my heart when I was told that I was granted asylum to live in the United States permanently and most importantly, legally. Even more exciting, this summer, attorneys Benjamin Meshkin and Dan Lee from Gibson Dunn and Christina Kendspeyer from Bloomberg filed my adjustment of status application. With their help, I expect to receive my green card by the end of the year. I can now enjoy benefits that I once thought were only a dream, like affordable health care to better manage my now undetectable HIV condition and many other immigration benefits. Now, to give back and better serve my community, I have decided to be a nurse to help save lives. I started nursing school full-time this fall. My whole life has changed thanks to Legal Services NYC. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the pro bono attorneys who helped LGBTQ individuals like me. Now, we will take a closer look at what this program actually does for the LGBTQ individuals.
One of the largest preconceptions about the LGBTQ community is that it is a rich population. We don't realize that there's animus to the LGBTQ community. We're just seeing a lot of LGBTQ folks living in poverty.
In 1986, we started one of the first practices representing people with HIV and AIDS. It was the height of an epidemic that was being completely ignored. These are the most resilient, life-affirming group of people that I've ever met.
Many thousands of LGBTQ individuals come to New York each year fleeing violence and persecution in their home countries.
La vida de las mujeres transgénero en México es muy difícil. Día a día hay personas transgénero asesinadas, torturadas, muchas ocasiones fue víctima de violencia.
It's very hard to be gay in Ghana. You're going to face a lot of discrimination. You could be jailed for up to 3 years.
My own uncle would used to abuse me. I was attacked by gunmen. I was stabbed. Even though I was going through all of that, I told myself I will come and seek a better life here.
It's just such a challenging environment for immigrants. I imagine it would be virtually impossible to win asylum without having a lawyer.
Virtually all of the cases that we serve through the pro bono program are for clients who we would otherwise turn away for lack of resources.
These clinics have worked out better than anyone could have possibly imagined. The work that they've been able to do over the last few years is truly impressive and I think unprecedented.
Working with legal services has been incredible from the beginning. The support and the mentorship, it's been an amazing journey so far.
So our partners at law firms go above and beyond to win their clients' cases, in the same way they do for their paying matters.
They took care of me like I was a paying client, and there was no way I could afford any of these attorneys. They provided all the possible resources that I need. It's a very, very great feeling.
Attorneys at our firm have been really responsive to the opportunity to work with LGBTQ clients. They've loved working with people they wouldn't interact with normally in their day-to-day work.
All the cases that I've worked on are memorable because you just know that you've added value to someone's life.
These are everyday citizens who may not have much, and you're able to provide them a service that could change their life forever.
I actually have a relative who is transgender who was killed many years ago, and the issue really resonated for me. So when this project came up, I was like, oh my God, this is such a great thing to be involved with.
For me, working with LGBTQ clients is about taking a stand against tyranny and those who bully others.
I feel the responsibility of knowing that someone's life and safety is on the line. I think it's been really one of the highlights of my legal career so far.
If the pro bono team has any questions or anything that they need to follow up on about sort of upcoming court appearances, they can always reach out.
As a newly admitted attorney at the time, this was my first ever court appearance. It was exciting, it was challenging.
I think the last time I was in court was over 25 years ago when I was admitted to the bar of the state of New York. But I knew it was really important for our client. She really started crying at the end when she got the name change order.
Each time I get the email from the associate saying that their client has been granted asylum, exclamation point, I well up with tears because the work that has been done and the way that their life has been turned around is such a moving and great thing. I just kind of wanted to read something that I received from a client that really made my day, week, maybe month. And it says, "Thank you, Jay and Melanie. You have honestly been a part of a life-changing achievement. And for me to finally be my full self, and most importantly, be happy. This is honestly the best gift I could have ever received."
Hello, everyone. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce David Levine to all of you this evening. Introductions of this nature often highlight the honorees' professional accomplishments, focusing on the successes they've had in their quote-unquote day job. And to that end, David is the embodiment of professional success, currently serving as general counsel at Bloomberg L.P. and previously as a partner at Wilkie Farr and Gallagher. But these titles, these positions, To those of us who have the honor to work alongside David at Bloomberg and to count him as a friend, I can assure you that's not what makes David, David. I have known David for close to 10 years now. I have watched him build out the legal and compliance function at Bloomberg by adding to the number of colleagues and greatly expanding our areas of expertise. But our team is far more than the sum of its parts. David has cultivated a team ethos centered around humility, grace, compassion, and collegiality, and with a moral compass that always points due north. That's what makes David, David. In 2015, I approached David about launching a pro bono program for our team. He didn't skip a beat, and with his characteristic wry smile, he said, "Val, let's figure out how to make it happen." He felt so strongly that such an initiative would align with the compassionate culture of our team, as well as the broader philanthropic initiatives of our company and our founder. And since then, David has fiercely championed our pro bono program, not just by giving it lip service, occasionally mentioning to colleagues that they may want to consider engaging in pro bono. Rather, he regularly and passionately and fiercely encourages robust engagement across the entire team. And each year, he contributes a significant amount of his own time to a range of clinics, helplines, and mentoring programs. He leads by example, and that's what makes David, David. I strongly believe that for a corporate pro bono program to thrive, one must have a zealous and passionate advocate in their general counsel. The GC sets the tone for the entire program, from inspiring and engaging colleagues to building and growing key internal and external partnerships. David is known in the legal profession, and specifically in the pro bono community, as just that, a zealous and passionate advocate for helping our communities in need. David's modesty and humility have him feeling like this honor tonight should really be a team honor for our department. And in many ways it is. Our volunteers absolutely love engaging in Legal Services NYC clinics and events, and we applaud their contributions. But tonight we are celebrating David and his choice to use his voice to empower all of us to engage and give back in meaningful ways. The fact that he neither needs nor expects any recognition for all that he does is exactly what makes David, David. And with that, I am delighted to introduce David Levine as co-honoree of the 2020 Legal Services for NYC Jazz for Justice Award.
Good evening. It's great to be with you tonight. I will try to be reasonably brief, as I recognized several months ago that there is no such thing as a captive audience for remote events, because participants can literally shut the speaker off at any time and without leaving a trail. I warn, I am still a work in progress on brevity. Thank you, Val, very much for your kind remarks. I think there were 5 or 6 very generous adjectives you used. And as you were speaking, my wife was weighing in on them. And she's like, okay, maybe you've got 2 or 3 on a really good day. For those of you who don't know, Val was the driving force behind the launch of our pro bono program in 2016, and now heads our EMEA legal team. We are not here today being recognized for the outstanding work of our colleagues helping those in need without your vision, leadership, and passion. I'm truly honored tonight to accept this award on behalf of our Legal and Compliance Department and the Bloomberg organization. I want to congratulate my co-honoree, James Sandman, whose long, distinguished, and diverse career is an inspiration to so many. There is no better example of an attorney who has made an incredible difference in so many ways. I was approached about 1.5 years ago by my colleagues, Amin Qasim, who is my former chief of staff and our current head of APAC Legal, and Val, about this award. Knowing me well, both of them were keenly aware of my general aversion to public personal recognition, and my conflicted views on events and fundraising. They did a lot of legwork in advance to address the questions they knew I would have. One of my conditions was that both of them would be live with me in person at the event. Both, of course, have broken that promise, and they've dared to do so right before annual evaluations, a very gutsy move. Despite my general aversion to being a figurehead honoree, I'm here tonight for 3 reasons. First, LSNYC is a uniquely fabulous organization, the nation's largest civil pro bono legal services provider. Their work has never been more important. Thank you, Ron, Bill, Tanya, and the incredible leadership team at LSNYC, and all of the attorneys and staff who provide invaluable assistance to New Yorkers in need. And there is a lot of need. Over the past few years, 65 members of our department have participated in 7 LSNYC programs and clinics, dedicating more than 1,000 hours of their time to helping immigrant domestic violence and crime survivors gain legal status, helping transgender individuals secure legal name changes, helping low-income individuals apply to become US citizens, helping individuals with legal problems relating to public assistance, and helping clients with a myriad of COVID-19 related issues. Second reason for being here tonight is that our team and our organization role model outstanding corporate philanthropic engagement, and I am passionate about our team and our amazing company. We have incredible diverse leadership throughout our department and on our pro bono committee. And I would especially like to recognize our pro bono co-chairs, Kim Rutan and Janine Choi. I am not easily impressed, but Kim and Janine and our colleagues have blown me away over the past 2 years. In 2019, our young program set high water marks with 5,300 hours of pro bono service and a 97% global participation rate across legal and compliance. This year, despite the pandemic, we are on a pace to once again exceed 5,000 hours and already have 99% participation on a global basis in our voluntary program. To our colleagues, success is not measured in hours, but the life-changing results we obtain on behalf of our clients. I cannot stress enough that we have fantastic relationships with and assistance from our not-for-profit and law firm partners, and the incredible, unwavering support and encouragement of Bloomberg Philanthropies. I would like to recognize the excellent work of Rachel Lee on our pro bono committee and Adam Heinz of LSNYC, who have facilitated our deep partnership with LSNYC. My third reason for being here tonight is that I find that over the years, my friends and family don't always fully understand exactly what I do with my time. Truth be told, I'm not sure I could account for all of it myself. I don't sleep enough, and I should be more responsive. But now, after this evening, I have more tangible proof that I am actually part of something important. In all seriousness, I'm very fortunate to have an amazing support system and role models personally and professionally who motivate me, challenge me, and have set a great example of helping others. My parents, who are participating this evening, are retired educators for the New York City Board of Education, who spent their entire professional career helping others to be their best and always saved their best for their children. They didn't think that law was a great career choice for me, and they might still be right about that, but they have always supported me in that decision. My sister and her family are here tonight and are there for me always. I will tell a very brief story. When I was about 10 years old, my sister gave me a book titled How to Make Yourself Miserable. And she thought it was quite funny knowing my personality. I thanked her for the book. I looked at it and I asked, why is the book so thin? There are so many other things that could be in here. My parents did not know that story until tonight, probably explains a little bit of who I am. I'd like to thank my wife who has always believed in me without doubt and has encouraged me to stay the course during my early, very difficult years in the profession, because in her mind, things were going to work out great. I'd also like to recognize the outstanding mentors I've had over the years, none more important than my colleagues and friends, Dick Beshar and Dan Grossman, and colleagues in our wonderful department and in the pro bono world, whom I learn from and am inspired by every day. I want to close by quoting one of the great philosophers of our time, the performer Meatloaf, who ironically at some point was a vegetarian. In 1993, he wrote and sang, "I would do anything for love, but I won't do that." People have wondered for decades what that is. I submit that in the case of pro bono, there should be no that. We can do more through engagement, by getting others involved in this cause, by publicizing the availability of services and programs, and through our generosity. While seeking publicity is counter to my natural inclinations, I firmly believe that as a profession, we need to get out beyond the legal community, where our clients are, so that they can avail themselves of these services, but also so we can change the narrative a little and remind people why this profession is central to a functioning society, to a just society, and to a compassionate society. 2021 will be a rebound year for New York City. Let's make sure we help those in need get through this tragic period and support our diverse culture, which is what makes this great city what it is. Thank you again, happy holidays, and let's come out fighting next year.
Hello everyone, my name is Chris Washburn and this is the Sciotos Band. We're so pleased to be here tonight, this very special event, Jazz for Justice. On piano, Helen Sung. On trumpet, John Walsh. Bass, Leo Traversa. Ole Mathis is on the saxophone and Vince Cherico is on the drums. We have a very special selection for you tonight. It was a song that was written in 1940 by a young Mexican composer named Consuelo Velázquez. She was 16 at the time and had never been kissed and heard that kissing was a sin, so it inspired a poem and a beautiful melody. But this also became an anthem for a whole generation of men and women that were being sent off to World War II and wanted one last kiss before they left. Bésame mucho. And in the time of COVID and the pandemic, we all need more kisses in our lives. And so we'd like to send this musical kiss out to all of you. We hope you enjoy. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Liza Velasquez, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of Legal Services, New York City. When I learned that I would have the privilege of introducing Kenneth C. Frazier, the first thing I did was reach out to my law partner, Ted Wells, someone who has known Ken since he was a first-year law student at Harvard. As the chairman and CEO of Merck, Ken is one of the most influential executives in global business. He started at Merck as an in-house lawyer and rose through the ranks to become general counsel, president, and then CEO and chairman in 2011. But what makes Ken truly inspirational, as Ted aptly describes him, is the fact that he has, time and again, throughout his professional career, used his talents and leadership position to advocate for justice and to courageously denounce injustice. I'll share just a few examples from Ken's remarkable career. After graduating from Harvard Law School, Ken spent a semester in South Africa, heeding the call for American lawyers to teach Black South African law students who had been denied admission to South African law schools. While he was in private practice in Philadelphia, Ken took on a case involving James Cochran, a Black man on death row facing an execution date for a crime he didn't commit. Cochran's conviction was overturned in 1995 after 19 years on death row, and he was released from federal prison in 1997, a moment that Ken has described as the high point of his professional career. In 2017, Ken was swift and vocal in denouncing the violence in Charlottesville, Virginia. Ken stated at the time that as CEO of Merck and as a matter of public conscience, I feel a responsibility to take a stand against intolerance and extremism. In response to the pandemic, Ken has spoken out about the need to ensure broad and affordable access to medical care, about the structural inequality highlighted by the disparate impact of COVID-19, and about the active and essential role that corporate leaders must play in combating workplace discrimination and advancing economic inclusion. As co-chair of the Legal Services Corporation Leaders Council since its formation in 2016, Ken has tirelessly advocated for expanding civil legal aid and narrowing the justice gap to, in his words, help make equal opportunity and equal access to justice a living, breathing reality. And so I'm deeply honored to introduce a man who has spent his professional life standing up for the greater good and those in greatest need, Ken Frazier.
Thank you, Liza, for that kind introduction. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I consider it a true honor to be asked to introduce James Sandman, a person I've had the great good fortune to know personally and to hold as an exemplar of what it means to be a lawyer dedicated to public service and the public good. For those of us involved with LSC, James Sandman is many things. He is a trusted colleague, lawyer par excellence, scholar, teacher, leader, commentator, and above all, a passionate and widely recognized advocate for legal services for the poor, disadvantaged, and disenfranchised. You could say that Jim is truly a Renaissance man, or a lawyer for all seasons. His resume is one that inspires awe, and I must admit, just a little bit of envy. A summa cum laude graduate of Boston College, where he was elected to Phi Beta Kappa, Jim then went on to the University of Pennsylvania, where he served as executive editor of the Penn Law Review. He went on to a clerkship on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals before joining Arnold & Porter, where he practiced for 3 decades and served as that prestigious firm's managing partner for a decade, as well as being president of the D.C. Bar Association. As one can see from this brief recitation of Jim's accomplishments, Jim earned the right to enjoy a comfortable living in the highest echelons of the private practice of law. But despite being a much sought-after big law practitioner, Jim was not at all interested in settling for a comfortable existence. Instead, Jim chose a different path, the path of a public interest lawyer. Given the significant gap that exists between the remuneration of lawyers in private sector jobs in law firms or corporations and those in public sector jobs, some might wonder what would motivate a person like Jim to choose public interest law in general and LSC in particular. Well, Jim didn't just drift into his role as president of LSC. Rather, he chose to serve because he holds dear the core values of the legal profession itself, including the ideal of the lawyer as a public servant. But that ideal only comes to life when individual attorneys like Jim not only hold it as a deeply felt personal value, but also put it into practice, that is to say, in their practice. Jim is the kind of lawyer who has decided to hold his own career as a form of public trust and who therefore makes public service a priority. Jim chose this work because he believes in the causes that public interest lawyers serve, including the many dedicated lawyers around the country who practice under the auspices of LSC and share its fundamental purpose to promote equal access to justice by providing high-quality legal services to low-income Americans. Jim's legal clarity and insight, his intellectual honesty about the true state of our country's conformity to the stated ideal of equal justice under law, his compassion for those left behind in our country, his unclouded vision for how LSC and others can make justice more accessible, and his enormous energy and dedication have made him a beacon for many practicing lawyers, and in my case, one non-practicing lawyer who still hopes to return to active legal practice one day. Jim is a distinguished attorney whose fidelity to the rule of law and to fundamental fairness in the legal system by which we seek to implement the rule of law has uplifted both the aspirations and conduct of the broader legal community. Simply put, there is no one who better emulates the commitment to the highest standards of legal professionalism or embodies the role of the individual lawyer as an instrument for public good than Jim Sandman. Jim, we honor you for your steadfast dedication to the ideal that equal justice is a fundamental right owed to all citizens, not a special privilege reserved for a favored few. We thank you for your years of dedicated service to LSC. Most of all, we honor all you've done to encourage and enable not only the dedicated lawyers and staff of the Legal Services Corporation, but all members of the profession to face up to the profound ethical, moral, and political implications of the gap that exists between our country's stated creed of equal justice for all and the realities of our legal system, which sadly fails to provide meaningful access to people in the greatest need, the poorest Americans who struggle to exercise even their most basic rights. I am honored to present the Legal Services Visionary Leadership Award to my friend and role model, Jim Sandman.
Good evening. How in the world can I live up to that introduction? I'm deeply honored to receive this award. I'm particularly honored to have it presented by my role model, Ken Frazier, a paragon of personal character and integrity, a person who, as an in-house lawyer at Merck, won exoneration and freedom for Bo Cochran, who had served 19 years on death row for a crime he did not commit. 3 years ago, Ken was the first business leader in America to call out the president's shameful comments after Charlottesville and to resign his presidential appointment to the American Manufacturing Council. Thank you so much, Ken, for that far too generous introduction. And I'm very honored to receive this award from the great Legal Services NYC, the nation's largest provider of civil legal aid and the recipient of the biggest grant the Legal Services Corporation awards. I'm also deeply humbled to receive this award. I can't hold a candle to the 600 people who work for Legal Services NYC, many of whom, unlike me, have devoted the entirety of their careers to the service of others, all of whom, every day, labor under crushing caseloads, under the emotional burden of their clients' circumstances, with the heartbreak of knowing how many people they are unable to help, and for very low pay, all to make America's promise of equal justice under law a reality for people to whom it would otherwise be just a cruel illusion. They represent not only the highest values of the legal profession, but the highest and most sacred value of America itself: justice. Justice, what Alexander Hamilton called the first duty of society, what James Madison called the end of government, the end of civil society. They have taken what Robert Frost called the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. I came late in my career to what for most of the staff of Legal Services NYC has been their life's work. I spent 30 years at a big law firm, but eventually I came to realize that the lawyers I admired and respected the most, the ones I wished I were like, were those who were working full-time for people less fortunate than themselves, and not dabbling in service as a kind of extracurricular activity in the way I felt I was. So I decided to join them. I was inspired by legal aid lawyers to make a change in my career, and I'm grateful to them for making my life richer. I'll never be a Ron Rasmussen. I'll never be able to say I devoted my whole career to the service of others. But I figure better late than never. This longest of years has, I believe, been Legal Services NYC's finest hour. As this cruel pandemic has driven record numbers of people into unemployment and poverty, the demand for legal services has spiked, and the logistical challenges of meeting that demand could have been overwhelming. But Legal Services NYC has not only risen to the challenge, but soared, intensifying its efforts, innovating, and adapting to new service delivery models and new needs. I want to give a special shout out to Legal Services NYC's directors of administration and to the entire IT staff whose heroic work has made this all possible. I thank every one of you for participating tonight, for what you do to support and validate and empower the angels of Legal Services NYC. We need to shine a spotlight on them, to shore them up, to enshrine them as the role models and examples they are for all of us, and to give them the means to do even more. I can't tell you what this means to me. If I've done anything to support the real heroes, the people of Legal Services NYC, in their work, I'm very glad to have had that opportunity. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We are able to help people who are being evicted from the only apartment they've ever lived in, people who aren't being paid wages by unscrupulous employers, people who are fleeing their home countries.
And my kids was very uncomfortable, you know, because I had to tell them what happened, and my daughter was crying and everything. And my son, you know, he asked me, Dad, when are we gonna go home? And I told him, we're not, because we got kicked out. I couldn't hold it anymore. I broke down crying. And I told him, you know, don't worry, you know, we're gonna go to court. Everything's gonna be okay. Man, God bless you guys. You guys was like angels, man. You just came out of nowhere and helped me.
The super put plastic back my head. He beat me up. And I said, oh Lord, this is my end. God help me, please. God, give me a hand. I have to say that you did a wonderful job, and you were so peaceful, and you took care of me, and I appreciate it.
The lack of income and health issues, it forces people to have to live in shelter sites, and I just could not imagine doing that. I was in a situation where I really needed help. They never turned their back on me. They were always willing to help me.
It was devastating because I've always liked to pride myself in being independent. And so it was hard. It was really a scary, scary thing. It was very overwhelming for me. I didn't know what I was going to do. If I didn't have legal services, I honestly don't know where I would have been. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart in the most genuine way possible for everything that you have done for me.
It was an extremely stressful time for me, and to add insult to injury, I found out my SNAP benefits had been terminated, my Medicaid had been terminated, and so that meant I had nothing.
To be a low-income New Yorker who has lost their benefits that they need to survive, to live, to eat, to be healthy, and then have to go through the government bureaucracy without a lawyer can be devastating.
What people go through to take care of their families in New York City. These are really heroes.
Our clients are housekeepers, home health aides, police officers, school teachers, and we're doing everything we can to help them.
Through every crisis, through every turning point, Legal Services NYC has been there for New York's most vulnerable.
New York City needs Legal Services NYC now more than ever.
I'm Legal Services NYC, and I demand justice for victims of predatory lending.
For families facing evictions.
I am Legal Services NYC, and I demand justice for veterans.
For small businesses and the self-employed.
For Staten Island.
For LGBT New Yorkers.
I demand justice for immigrants.
I demand justice.
New Yorkers with disabilities demand justice.
I demand justice.
We demand justice.
For students throughout New York City.
Exige justicia.
For children fleeing violence, we demand justice.
For low-income New Yorkers on benefits,
we demand justice.
For people facing financial crisis.
Demand justice.
For families facing landlord abuse.
We demand justice.
For New Yorkers living with HIV.
We demand justice.
For disabled New Yorkers.
We demand justice.
For students in public schools.
For survivors of domestic violence.
Stop the silence and demand justice.
On behalf of our staff, our community-based partners, and our pro bono friends, we demand justice for all New Yorkers.
Good evening. I'm Susan Coleman, outgoing board chair of LSNYC. Wow, what a night. Thank you all so much for being here this evening, especially on this December night in 2020, in the midst of COVID. It's more important than ever to celebrate the work of Legal Services NYC and all it does for low-income New Yorkers. As you heard over the course of the evening, our citywide access line has received 21,000 more calls than last year. Our dedicated staff has handled more than 11,500 cases for clients impacted by the pandemic. With 5,300 cases to help people stay in their homes, almost 1,000 on behalf of people seeking immigration stability, and our public benefits hotline helping more than 1,000 people receive life-saving benefits. And finally, our citywide team of social workers distributing grants to 287 clients to purchase much-needed food and medicine. What is so remarkable, and in some ways chilling, is that while these numbers are extraordinary in this most challenging year, Legal Services NYC has been fighting poverty and seeking racial, social, and economic justice for low-income New Yorkers in need for just over 50 years, and will continue to do so with your help for the years to come. How do we do it? Well, first and foremost, with our amazing staff. Please join me in thanking and acknowledging our entire staff for their incredibly hard work, dedication, and success in fighting for and improving the lives of countless New Yorkers and their families. Our staff helps our clients hold their lives together in critical ways. And when the stakes get higher, as they have this year, they fight even harder for our clients and their families and for fundamental justice. We demand justice. We also do this important work with the help of all of our pro bono partners. And if you were inspired tonight by the story of Joy Weefam and Katie Marquardt, we would be delighted to partner with you on one of our pro bono projects. And of course, LSNYC is lucky enough to have true heroes like our honorees, David Levine and James Sandman. Congratulations to them, and huge thanks for their unwavering support of our mission. And we do this work because of friends like you. If this year has taught us anything, it is that we need each other. We need each other's help, we need each other's compassion, and we need to stand up for the most vulnerable among us. By being here tonight and supporting Legal Services with your contributions and your time, you are truly doing for others who need it most. Fundamentally, I believe Legal Services NYC is a testament to resilience, helping those in need now and in the future. To a better year for all of us in 2021, thank you all for helping us demand justice for all New Yorkers. And now, please welcome Steve Bernstein, Scott Robinson, and Helen Sung for our last musical set. Good evening.
Hey, this is Stephen Bernstein, and I'm very happy to be playing some music for you for this virtual gala. Last time I played for you was the last time I performed with Henry Butler. He went to the hospital a few days later to go into hospice and passed away about 2 weeks after that. Piece we played that everyone seems to remember was When the Saints Go Marching In. Now, because of the pandemic, it's just me, so here is a virtual brass band version of The Saints Go Marching In for your enjoyment. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Scott Robinson here in Science Sonic Laboratories. I just want to express my support for the Jazz for Justice initiative, and I want to give my thanks to WBGO, Newark, New Jersey, for giving us permission to use this little clip of my band playing in their studios about a year and a half ago. This is my quartet with Helen Sung on piano, Martin Wind on bass, and Dennis McCrell on drums. And we're playing a tune of mine from our latest album, 10 or More. This is a song I wrote as a gift for my wife. It's kind of an optimistic tune. We could all use a little optimism these days. I want to dedicate this song to the memory of a dear friend, not just of myself, but of the music and of the movement, the effort. Stephen Edwards, he was a dear friend of WBGO as well, and he was responsible for the artistic side of the Jazz for Justice effort. Used to come hear our band quite a bit. We miss him very, very much. So, Steve, this is for you. This is Morning Star. Hope you enjoy it.